I want to point out something you said. You talked about sometimes you have to get your mental and spiritual life in order first. And that's true. But sometimes, and we've seen this many times, we can flip it around the other way. So I believe that God created each and every one of us for a specific mission. I believe that in my heart of hearts. So what I've been doing for 40 years. I love it more now than ever because this is what I was put on earth to do. A lot of people are not really clear about what that's especially now. I mean, when the world's kind of turned upside down, it's like, well, I've been doing this for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years and I can't do that anymore. So what do I do? So here's the intriguing part. And I've seen it over and over. And it came from my own experience. My first marriage ended after 14 years. I was devastated. Nobody in my family had ever been divorced. I love this man to death. We had 3 adopted children. And I was just devastated. And I was sitting in a counselor's office. And the counselor said, okay, Barbara, you have a blank slate. What do you want? And I said, I don't know. I said, I was Mrs. Tom and I expected to be Mrs. Tom for 5 decades. And I really don't know. She made a statement that was life-changing and which is part of what we use in our work today. She said, let's start with what you don't want. Well, that's clutter, right? So we can even do that in a physical space. I can tell you the percentage of people who have a room in their house, which was supposedly supposed to be an office or a guest room, that is full of postponed decisions is huge. And so it's like, okay, we need to clean this up, but we have to have a why for cleaning it up. And if they say, well, I don't know what my why is, then the really great way to start is say, well, let's go look at these physical things. Let's pick them up one by one and say, does this help you accomplish your work or enjoy your life? And if the answer is no, it's like, oh, okay, well, then we don't need to get rid of that. And if you do that, what happens is it reveals what your purpose is. It's just magic.
Man, that's so fantastic. This is Barbara Hemphill at productiveenvironment.com. Go see what we're talking about here. If you want to get a better understanding of Miss Barbara Hemphill, go to barbarahemphill.com. Check her out. You can see in the show notes, spelling of the name, all of that other good stuff. I'm going to be sure to include the link in there also in order for people to get a better understanding of who you are and where you're coming from with this, because you are such a genuine person in how you describe this. I've seen other interviews. You're a very spiritual person. I deeply appreciate that. I'm grateful the fact that you bring that out in other people in order to figure out really what the priorities deep down within our soul are. All right. And it does happen externally. I understand decluttering things, getting rid of things in our lives that we don't want is a huge, huge thing. Identifying what we don't want, maybe even habitually what we don't want and don't realize that we're slaves to as well, right? Because we've habitually created this clutter. How do we break ourselves to the habit of being disorganized all of the time in all of our affairs? What can we do in order to better increase our productivity? Is this something which is habitual? Is it something which is spiritual? So do you have an opinion or a take on that as far as how?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for days because I do. It's like the answer to all your questions is yes. It's complicated. I mean, if it weren't complicated, there wouldn't be so many people struggling with it. I mean, Marie Kondo is out of Japan. She wrote a book and has a Netflix TV show called The Magic of Tidying Up. And it's sold millions of copies because clutter is something that's really bugging us, not only individuals, but also, Michael, businesses, organizations. And that's one of the things that's happening in the world now. I just talked with someone yesterday who said that her brother works in New York. Works for the state, and he's doing something with finances, and he's working out of his home office right now. And she said, he told me that he can do in 3 hours now at home what it used to take him 8 hours to do in the office.
Yes.
So it's like, that's because his environment's different. Now, on the other hand, there are other people who are in their home offices now with maybe a spouse and 2 children, and, you know, they're in 800 square feet and they're trying to make it work. So, you know, I believe organizing is an art. So lots of times people will say, what should I do? And my answer to that is that's the wrong question. The question is, what will you do? And if your why is big enough, if the reason you want to get organized, I want to get organized to have more money, to make more money, to get a better job, to have a better life, to have less stress, to have a better relationship, to move into a smaller house, to retire earlier, whatever your why is, then when you know what that why is, there is always a way.